David Chen had never seen so many different types of eyes staring at him with such obvious disappointment. The cargo hauler from Earth shifted uncomfortably in his simple gray jumpsuit as hundreds of alien beings filled the vast ceremonial hall of the Meridian Trade Station. Some had compound eyes that glittered like broken glass. Others possessed single enormous orbs that never seemed to blink. A few species had no visible eyes at all, yet David could feel their attention focused on him with unmistakable disdain. "This is what humanity sends us?" The voice came from Captain Reth, whose insectoid form towered nearly 8 feet tall. His mandibles clicked together in what David had learned was the equivalent of a human snort of disgust. "A simple worker in work clothes?" Ambassador Knox, the only other human present, tried to maintain his diplomatic smile. "Captain Reth, please understand that David represents the backbone of human industry. Our cargo haulers are among our most experienced space travelers." "Space travelers?" Another alien laughed, a sound like grinding metal. This one resembled a walking tree with bark-like skin and glowing sap for blood. Humans have barely left their own solar system. What could they possibly offer the Galactic Trade Assembly? David wanted to sink into the polished floor. He had volunteered for this mission thinking it would be an adventure, a chance to see the galaxy beyond the asteroid mining routes he usually flew. Instead, he found himself as the unwilling representative of his entire species, being judged by beings who had mastered faster-than-light travel before his ancestors had invented the wheel. The ceremonial hall itself was a marvel that made David's head spin. Crystalline walls stretched up so high they seemed to disappear into starlight. Gravity fields allowed beings of different physiology to walk on walls and ceilings as if they were floors. Floating platforms carried species that preferred to swim through specially designed water bubbles suspended in midair. "Perhaps," came a new voice, cold and measured, "we should study these humans more carefully before dismissing them entirely." David turned to see Dr. Yilan approaching. The reptilian scientist moved with predatory grace, her scaled skin shifting between deep green and silver as she walked. Unlike the other aliens who had mostly ignored David after their initial assessment, Dr. Yilan watched him with intense scientific interest. "Study them?" Captain Reth's antennae twitched with amusement. "What is there to study?" "They are carbon-based, oxygen-breathing mammals. Standard physiology for 1,000 primitive species we have already catalogued." "Standard, perhaps," Dr. Yilan replied, circling David slowly. "But every species has unique adaptations. Even the most seemingly ordinary creatures can surprise us." Her tongue flicked out briefly, tasting the air around David. "Tell me, human, what do you eat on your homeworld?" The question caught David off guard. Regular food, I guess. Meat, vegetables, grains, whatever's available. And beverages? Water, mostly. Coffee when I can get it. Beer sometimes." David felt his cheeks redden as several aliens exchanged glances at the mention of alcohol. "Fascinating," Dr. Yilan murmured, making notes on a device that looked like living crystal. "And you consume ethanol recreationally without ill effects?" "Well, not without any effects," David admitted. "But yeah, it's pretty normal for humans." A murmur ran through the nearby aliens. David caught fragments of their translated conversations: voluntary poison consumption, primitive tolerance, deathworld adaptations. Ambassador Knox stepped forward, clearly trying to steer the conversation back to safer diplomatic waters. "Dr. Yilan, we appreciate your scientific curiosity, but perhaps we should focus on the formal proceedings. The Assembly is eager to hear humanity's trade proposals." "Of course," Dr. Yilan agreed, but her eyes never left David. "I look forward to tomorrow's grand feast. It will be most educational to observe human dietary responses to galactic cuisine." As the crowd began to disperse toward the various preparation chambers, David noticed small groups of aliens gathering in hushed conversations. Their body language suggested plotting, though he could not understand their rapid exchanges in native tongues that the universal translators seemed unable to interpret. "Ambassador Knox," David said quietly, "are we actually welcome here? Because it really doesn't feel like it." Knox sighed, his diplomatic facade slipping for just a moment. "To be honest, David, I'm not sure. Earth applied for Trade Assembly membership, primarily for the technological benefits and access to galactic shipping routes. But most of these species see us as a burden rather than an asset. Then why did they accept our application? Political pressure from some of the more progressive member worlds, I think." Plus, there are regulations about denying membership to any species that achieves faster-than-light travel on their own. Knox adjusted his formal dress uniform, looking every bit as out of place as David felt. Don't worry too much about it. Tomorrow's feast is our chance to show them what humanity can bring to the table. As they walked through the station's corridors toward their assigned quarters, David marveled at the casual impossibilities surrounding him. Walls that shifted color to match the mood of passing inhabitants, gardens that grew in zero gravity with plants that sang in harmonious frequencies, vendors selling foods that defied every law of physics David thought he knew. At one stall, he watched a blob-like merchant serve what appeared to be solid lightning to a customer made of living metal. At another, crystalline beings purchased bottles of liquid starlight that actually glowed with their own inner fire. How do they digest any of this stuff? David wondered aloud. Carefully, I imagine, Knox replied. Each species has evolved to process different types of matter and energy. What's nutritious to them might be toxic to us and vice versa. That night, David lay in his assigned sleeping chamber, staring through the transparent aluminum ceiling at the stars beyond. Somewhere among those points of light was Earth, looking just as small and insignificant as he felt right now. He had signed up for this mission, hoping to prove that ordinary humans could make a difference in the galaxy. Instead, he was beginning to wonder if humanity had made a terrible mistake in reaching for the stars before they were truly ready. Tomorrow would bring the formal feast, humanity's official introduction to galactic society. David could only hope that somehow, some way, things would go better than today's disastrous first impressions. He had no idea that Dr. Yalan was already preparing something special just for him, something that would change everything both he and the galaxy thought they knew about the seemingly ordinary species called humanity. The smell hit David first, though calling it a smell was like calling a supernova a flashlight. Waves of unfamiliar scents crashed over him as he entered the grand banquet hall, each one fighting for dominance in his overwhelmed nose. Sweet odors that made his teeth ache mixed with sharp metallic tangs that reminded him of lightning strikes. Underneath it all lurked something that smelled exactly like his grandmother's basement after a flood. Try to look enthusiastic, Ambassador Knox whispered beside him, his own face carefully arranged in diplomatic neutrality, despite the obvious strain around his eyes. The banquet hall defied every architectural principle David knew. Tables floated at different heights and angles throughout the massive space, each one designed for the specific needs of different species. Some tables held pools of various liquids for aquatic beings. Others were suspended in energy fields that allowed gas-based life forms to dine in their preferred atmospheric conditions. One table appeared to be made entirely of controlled fire, hosting creatures that looked like walking lava flows. Honored guests, announced High Counselor Vorth from the central platform, his voice somehow reaching every corner of the hall despite the chaos of different atmospheric conditions. Vorth resembled a massive jellyfish wearing ceremonial robes made of woven starlight. Today we celebrate the newest potential members of our great assembly. Let each species present their finest cuisine as a gesture of welcome. David watched in fascination and growing horror as alien after alien approached their assigned table. The first course came from the Crystalline Federation, what appeared to be living diamonds that sang in perfect harmony until bitten, at which point they released flavors that David's brain interpreted as the color purple, mixed with the concept of mathematics. Just take small bites, Knox advised, managing to swallow his portion without visible distress. And smile. David bit down on the crystal. The taste exploded across his palate like nothing he had ever experienced. It was simultaneously sweet and bitter, hot and cold, with undertones that his human nervous system simply could not process. His eyes watered, but he managed to swallow and nod appreciatively to the watching aliens. The second course arrived via floating platform, a gaseous soup from the Nebula Collective that required special breathing apparatus to consume. David put on the provided mask and inhaled carefully. The sensation was like breathing flavored starlight. If starlight could taste like a mixture of vanilla and copper pennies. Interesting, Dr. Yalan observed from a nearby table designed for reptilian physiology. She had been watching David throughout the meal, taking notes on her crystalline device. The human appears to be experiencing some difficulty with standard galactic cuisine. Captain Reth, who was delicately consuming what looked like live insects made of pure energy, clicked his mandibles in amusement. Difficulty? Look at his face. I'm surprised he hasn't collapsed yet. David was indeed struggling. Each new course brought flavors and textures that seemed designed to confuse rather than nourish. A protein dish from the metal worlds tasted like chewing on a battery. Fruit from the garden systems looked beautiful but had the consistency of rubber, and tasted like someone had liquefied a pine forest. "How are you holding up?" Knox asked quietly during a brief pause between courses. "I feel like my taste buds are filing for divorce from my brain," David replied, reaching for his water glass. Even the water tasted strange here, processed through filters designed for multiple species and somehow managing to taste both too clean and not clean enough. As the meal progressed, David became aware of the conversations happening at nearby tables. The universal translators caught fragments of discussion, and none of it was particularly encouraging. "Primitive digestive system," someone was saying, "clearly unsuited for galactic cuisine. Did you see how he reacted to the quantum spices? I thought he might actually be sick. Perhaps this is why their species has remained isolated for so long. They simply cannot adapt to civilized food." Dr. Yelan continued her observations, occasionally asking David direct questions about his physical responses to different dishes. "Tell me," she said during the 7th course, "do humans often experience nausea when encountering new foods?" "Sometimes," David admitted, setting down his fork after a single bite of what appeared to be pickled moonbeams. "We usually stick to things we know are safe to eat." "Safe," Dr. Yelan repeated as if the word held special significance. "And what constitutes safe for humans?" "Well, things that won't poison us, mainly. Foods we've been eating for generations without problems." Several aliens at nearby tables turned to stare at David's casual mention of poison. Dr. Yelan's eyes brightened with obvious interest. "You evaluate food safety based on toxicity levels? Doesn't everyone?" David asked, confused by the sudden attention his comment had drawn. "Not exactly," Knox interjected quickly, clearly sensing dangerous diplomatic waters ahead. "Perhaps we should focus on the cultural exchange aspect of this meal, rather than the technical details of human nutrition." But Dr. Yelan was not to be deterred. "I find human dietary evolution fascinating. Tell me, do humans consume any substances that other species might consider harmful?" David thought about it. "Well, we eat a lot of things that are technically toxic in large quantities. Chocolate, for instance, and coffee contains enough caffeine to kill some smaller animals. Alcohol is literally poison, but we drink it for fun. Spicy food is basically plants trying to hurt us, but we bred them to be even spicier." The silence that followed David's casual explanation was profound. Aliens throughout the nearby tables had stopped eating to stare at him. Some looked horrified, others appeared genuinely impressed. "You intentionally consume toxins for recreational purposes?" Dr. Yelan asked, her voice carefully controlled. "I guess when you put it like that." David was starting to realize he might have said something significant, though he wasn't sure what. "Is that unusual?" "Highly unusual," Dr. Yelan confirmed, making rapid notes. "Most species develop strict aversions to any substances that trigger negative physiological responses. The idea of voluntarily consuming toxins for pleasure suggests remarkable biological resilience." Captain Reth leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting the hall's shifting lights. "Or remarkable stupidity." "Perhaps," Dr. Yelan agreed, but her tone suggested she was beginning to think otherwise. "Or perhaps humanity has developed adaptive mechanisms that other species lack." As the evening progressed and more courses arrived, David noticed that Dr. Yelan had begun paying less attention to her own meal and more attention to him. She watched every bite he took, every expression that crossed his face, every small sign of his body's response to the alien cuisine. "Tomorrow," she announced as the final course was served, "we will have the closing ceremony. A traditional toast with fermented Meridian sea kelp wine. I do hope our human guests will participate fully in this honored custom." "Of course," Ambassador Knox replied immediately. "We're honored to take part in your traditions." Dr. Yelan smiled, an expression that looked distinctly predatory on her reptilian features. "Excellent. I personally will ensure that our human friends receive properly prepared portions. After all, it would be terrible if anything disagreed with their apparently delicate digestive systems." David felt a chill that had nothing to do with the hall's climate control, though he could not quite identify why Dr. Yelan's helpful offer felt more like a threat than a courtesy. Deep beneath the public levels of Meridian Trade Station, in a laboratory that officially did not exist, Dr. Yilan worked with practiced precision. Her clawed hands moved carefully among vials and instruments that would have been illegal on most civilized worlds. The lab's walls were lined with specimens from across the galaxy, tissue samples, biological extracts, and carefully preserved organs from hundreds of different species. "You seem unusually focused tonight," observed Commander Voss, a militaristic humanoid whose species had been among the first to join the trade assembly. His crystalline skull gleamed under the laboratory's harsh lighting as he watched Dr. Yilan prepare her equipment. "I have been waiting for the right opportunity," Dr. Yilan replied, not looking up from her work. "These humans present a perfect test case." She held up a small crystal vial containing what appeared to be completely clear liquid. To most observers, it looked like pure water. In reality, it contained the most refined and deadly toxin ever developed by galactic science, Void's Whisper, Commander Voss said, recognizing the substance immediately. "Are you certain this is necessary? Assassination during a diplomatic gathering seems extreme." "Not assassination," Dr. Yilan corrected, her tongue flicking out to taste the air for any traces of the poison. "Scientific demonstration. The galaxy needs to understand that some species simply do not belong among civilized beings." Dr. Yilan moved to a wall display that showed detailed biological scans from hundreds of species. Each entry included complete physiological data, metabolic rates, nervous system mappings, and most importantly, detailed records of how each species had responded to various toxins. Void's Whisper works by mimicking essential proteins that all carbon-based life requires for cellular function, she explained, bringing up a three-dimensional molecular model. The subject's body initially accepts the substance as beneficial. Within minutes, however, the false proteins begin disrupting cellular communication throughout the nervous system. Commander Voss studied the molecular structure with professional interest. "What are the symptoms?" "Initial euphoria as the subject's brain interprets the false proteins as a beneficial enhancement. This lasts approximately 30 to 90 seconds. Dr. Yilan manipulated the display to show cellular breakdown patterns, then rapid onset of paralysis as motor functions shut down. Respiratory failure follows within 3 minutes. Death occurs within 5 minutes maximum. And you have tested this on carbon-based subjects?" "Extensively." Dr. Yilan brought up a grim catalog of test results. 47 different species across the spectrum of carbon-based life. Mammals, reptiles, avians, even some of the more exotic carbon variants. Perfect success rate. The display showed species after species, bear-like creatures from the Forge worlds, delicate winged beings from the cloud cities, even the notoriously resilient tunnel dwellers from the deep core systems. All had succumbed to Void's Whisper within the expected time frame. "The beauty of this compound," Dr. Yilan continued, "is its complete undetectability. It has no odor, no taste, and appears identical to water under all standard scanning protocols. By the time symptoms begin, it is far too late for any medical intervention." Commander Voss nodded approvingly. "And you intend to administer this to the human during tomorrow's closing ceremony?" "To the worker, specifically, not the ambassador." Dr. Yilan sealed the vial containing Void's Whisper and placed it in a secure containment field. "Eliminating a simple cargo hauler will demonstrate that humans are vulnerable at every level of their society. It sends a clearer message than killing a trained diplomat." "What message exactly?" Dr. Yilan's eyes gleamed with cold satisfaction. "That some species achieve space travel through luck rather than worthiness. That the galaxy has standards which must be maintained. That there are consequences for presuming to join civilizations beyond one's natural capabilities." The laboratory fell silent, except for the hum of containment fields and air recycling systems. Dr. Yilan began preparing the delivery system, a small device that would allow her to introduce the poison into David's drink without detection. "The Meridian sea kelp wine is perfect for this purpose," she explained, adjusting microscopic components. "Its natural complexity will mask any slight variations in the liquid's properties. The traditional toast requires that guests consume the entire cup at once, ensuring full dosage delivery." Commander Voss watched the preparation with growing admiration for Dr. Yilan's thoroughness. "Have you considered the diplomatic complications if this is discovered?" "There will be no discovery. Void's Whisper breaks down completely within hours of administration, leaving no trace except a corpse. Dr. Yilan completed her preparation and sealed the delivery device. The official cause of death will be listed as severe allergic reaction to alien cuisine. Tragic but understandable for such a primitive species. And if the humans demand an investigation, let them demand. They have no political power here, no allies, and no evidence. Their ambassador will take his dead colleague home, and humanity will withdraw their application for membership. Problem solved. Dr. Yilan moved to another section of her laboratory where she maintained detailed files on every aspect of galactic politics. Her real work was not just toxicology, but social engineering on a massive scale. She had spent decades studying which species belonged in galactic civilization and which represented threats to the established order. Humans are particularly dangerous, she explained, pulling up assessment files. Their rapid technological development suggests they may eventually challenge the current power structure. Better to discourage them now before they become a genuine threat. The files contain detailed psychological profiles of human behavior, technological capabilities, and social structures. What Dr. Yilan found most concerning was humanity's tendency toward innovation and adaptation under pressure. They are unpredictable, she continued. Most species follow logical development patterns. Humans make intuitive leaps that disrupt established expectations. This makes them unsuitable for galactic society. Commander Voss studied the human assessment data with interest. Their technology appears primitive compared to ours, for now, but observe their development curve. Dr. Yilan highlighted several technological achievements. They went from first powered flight to space travel in less than 100 years. Most species require thousands of years for similar advancement. Impressive. Dangerous, and Dr. Yilan corrected. Species that develop too quickly often become unstable. They lack the wisdom that comes from slow, careful progress. They make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. The doctor sealed her preparations and began cleanup procedures. Tomorrow's ceremony would require perfect timing and complete discretion. She had already arranged to personally serve the ceremonial wine, ensuring that David received the specially prepared cup. One more question, Commander Voss said as they prepared to leave the laboratory. What if the poison does not work as expected? Dr. Yilan paused at the laboratory door, her expression showing complete confidence. Impossible. Void's whisper has never failed. Carbon-based life has fundamental limitations that cannot be overcome through evolution or technology. Tomorrow we will demonstrate those limitations to the entire galaxy. As they left the hidden laboratory, Dr. Yilan felt the satisfaction of a plan perfectly conceived and flawlessly prepared. She had no way of knowing that human evolution had taken some very unusual paths, or that David Chen was about to provide the galaxy with a lesson in the dangers of underestimating any species based on appearance alone. The closing ceremony took place in the station's most prestigious hall, where representatives from across the galaxy gathered beneath a dome that showed real-time views of the surrounding star systems. David stood uncomfortably among beings whose very existence challenged everything he thought he knew about life in the universe. His simple work clothes had been replaced with formal human attire, but he still felt like a spare part in a precision machine. Before we conclude this historic gathering, High Counselor Vorth announced from his floating platform, we will share the traditional toast of fellowship. Let all species drink, together from the sacred wine of Meridian's ancient seas. Servers began moving through the crowd carrying trays of crystal cups filled with a deep blue liquid that seemed to glow with inner light. David watched the wine slosh gently in the cups, noting how it left trails of luminescence where it touched the glass. The smell that reached his nose was overwhelmingly oceanic, like a combination of seaweed and salt spray. This wine is fermented from sea kelp that grows in Meridian's deepest trenches, Ambassador Knox explained quietly. It's considered a great honor to be offered it. The kelp takes over a century to mature. Smells like the docks back home after a storm, David replied, trying to be polite. He had never been much of a drinker, preferring coffee to alcohol, but diplomatic protocol required participation. Dr. Yilan approached their group personally, carrying a special tray with 2 cups that seemed to shine slightly brighter than the others. Her reptilian features were arranged in what David assumed was meant to be a friendly expression, though something about her smile made him uncomfortable. Honored human guests, she said formally, please accept these specially prepared portions. The kelp used in these cups was harvested from the most sacred depths, reserved for only the most distinguished visitors. She handed one cup to Ambassador Knox and the other directly to David. As their fingers brushed during the exchange, David felt how cold her scaled skin was, like touching a snake that had been kept in refrigeration. "Thank you," David said, accepting the cup with both hands as he had seen other species do. "This is very kind. The pleasure is entirely mine," Dr. Yilan replied, her eyes fixed intently on David's face. "I do hope you find the experience memorable." Around the hall, other aliens raised their cups as High Counselor Vorth began the traditional toast. "To fellowship among the stars," Vorth's voice resonated through the chamber. "To trade that enriches all species. To wisdom shared across the void between worlds." "To fellowship among the stars," the assembled delegates repeated in dozens of different languages, the universal translators creating a strange harmony of meaning if not sound. David raised his cup with the others and drank deeply. The wine hit his palate like a liquid explosion of ocean flavors. It was intensely salty, with undertones of iodine and something else he could not quite identify. The texture was thick, almost syrupy, and it left a tingling sensation on his tongue as he swallowed. Dr. Yilan watched every moment of David's consumption with scientific fascination. Her chronometer began counting down from 5 minutes. Around her, other conspirators positioned themselves to observe the effects of Void's whisper on human physiology. 30 seconds passed. David continued talking with Ambassador Knox about the ceremony's significance, showing no signs of the euphoria that should have marked the poison's initial phase. 1 minute. David rubbed his nose briefly but otherwise appeared completely normal. Dr. Yilan checked her readings twice, convinced there must be some error in her timing. 2 minutes. David sneezed once, a sharp sound that drew attention from nearby aliens. He pulled out a tissue and wiped his nose apologetically. "Excuse me," David said to the group around him. "I think I'm having a reaction to something. My nose is getting stuffy." Dr. Yilan felt her confidence begin to crack. By now, David should have been showing signs of motor function impairment. Instead, he was standing normally, breathing normally, and complaining about nasal congestion. 3 minutes. The time when respiratory failure should have begun. David sneezed again, more forcefully this time, and pulled out another tissue. "Sorry about this," he said, his voice slightly nasal but otherwise clear. "I should have mentioned earlier that I have a pretty bad shellfish allergy. That wine must have been made with some kind of sea creature extract." Dr. Yilan stared at David in complete disbelief. Her most perfect creation, the toxin that had never failed to kill within 5 minutes, was causing nothing more than minor respiratory irritation. 4 minutes. David continued conversing normally, occasionally pausing to blow his nose or wipe his eyes, which had begun to water slightly. His symptoms were consistent with a mild allergic reaction, nothing more. "Are you all right?" Ambassador Knox asked with concern. "Should we find you some antihistamine?" "Nah, I'll be fine," David replied, taking another sip of the wine. "This happens sometimes when I eat at seafood restaurants. Usually clears up on its own in an hour or two." 5 minutes, the maximum time any carbon-based life form had ever survived Void's whisper exposure. David Chen was not only alive, but was finishing his second cup of the poisoned wine while discussing cargo shipping routes with a delegate from the mining consortium. Dr. Yilan's hands trembled as she checked and rechecked her equipment. Every reading confirmed that David had consumed a full dose of Void's whisper. The poison should have been coursing through his bloodstream, shutting down his nervous system cell by cell. Instead, his body appeared to be treating it as nothing more serious than an environmental allergen. "Impossible," she whispered, her scientific worldview cracking like broken glass. Commander Voss approached her from across the hall, his expression questioning. "Status report?" "The subject is experiencing minor allergic symptoms only," Dr. Yilan replied, her voice hollow with shock. "No other effects detected? You mean the poison is working slowly?" "I mean the poison is not working at all." Dr. Yilan watched David laugh at something Ambassador Knox had said, his face slightly flushed from the allergic reaction, but otherwise showing no signs of distress. "His immune system appears to have neutralized Void's whisper completely. The implications hit both of them simultaneously. If humans could survive Void's whisper, the galaxy's most sophisticated biotoxin, what else might they be immune to? What other assumptions about human limitations were completely wrong? Perhaps Commander Voss suggested quietly. We should reconsider our assessment of this species. Dr. Yilan continued staring at David, who was now helping Ambassador Knox explain human trade capabilities to a group of interested merchants. Her life's work in toxicology was built on the principle that all carbon-based life shared fundamental vulnerabilities. David Chen was living proof that some species had evolved beyond those limitations in ways that galactic science had never imagined. Yes, she agreed slowly, her scientific curiosity finally overcoming her prejudice. Perhaps we should. As the ceremony continued around them, David remained blissfully unaware that he had just survived an assassination attempt that should have killed him 5 times over. To him, it was just another allergic reaction to seafood, the kind of minor inconvenience he dealt with regularly back on Earth. He had no idea that his stuffy nose was about to change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Dr. Yilan had not slept in 36 hours. Her laboratory hummed with continuous activity, as she ran test after test on blood samples she had discreetly obtained from David during the ceremony. Every result challenged decades of established galactic science about biological limitations and toxin resistance. The molecular breakdown is unprecedented, she muttered to herself, studying microscopic images of David's blood cells under extreme magnification. His immune system did not just neutralize Void's whisper. It completely metabolized it and converted the byproducts into harmless proteins. Commander Voss entered the laboratory looking equally exhausted. Word of the failed assassination had reached the highest levels of the conspiracy, and everyone involved was scrambling to understand what had gone wrong. High Counselor Vorth is demanding answers, he announced without preamble. Half the assembly thinks we attempted to poison a diplomatic guest. The other half thinks we are incompetent for failing to poison a diplomatic guest. The attempt was not a failure, Dr. Yilan replied, turning from her instruments. It was a revelation. Look at these cellular analysis results. She activated a holographic display showing the molecular structure of David's blood before and after Void's whisper exposure. The difference was remarkable. Where the toxin should have disrupted cellular function, David's immune system had instead incorporated the foreign molecules and used them to strengthen existing biological processes. His body treated our most sophisticated poison as a nutritional supplement, Dr. Yilan explained, highlighting specific molecular interactions. Not only did it fail to harm him, it actually improved his metabolic efficiency by 3%. Commander Voss studied the data with growing amazement. How is this possible? I have been researching human evolutionary history. Dr. Yilan brought up a new display showing Earth's biological timeline. Their homeworld is what galactic classification terms a Class 12 deathworld. The surface conditions are so hostile that most species would consider it uninhabitable. The display showed Earth's violent geological history, extreme weather patterns, and the incredible diversity of toxic and dangerous life forms that had evolved there. Dr. Yilan highlighted specific examples that made Commander Voss's crystalline features shift color with shock. Humans share their planet with creatures that produce venom capable of killing most galactic species, she continued. Plants that have evolved chemical defenses so sophisticated they would qualify as weapons of mass destruction in civilized space. Microorganisms so aggressive that human immune systems had to develop resistance to threats we cannot even imagine. And they survived this environment? More than survived. They thrived. Dr. Yilan pulled up additional data about human dietary habits. They domesticated toxic plants and selectively bred them to be even more toxic for recreational consumption. They intentionally consume ethanol, which is a cellular poison to most species as a social activity. They eat fermented foods containing bacteria that would be considered biological weapons on most worlds. Commander Voss was beginning to understand the implications. Their immune systems evolved to handle constant toxin exposure. Exactly. What we consider fatal poison, their bodies treat as a minor environmental challenge. Dr. Yilan displayed molecular comparisons between human immune responses and those of other galactic species. Look at these antibody production rates. When exposed to foreign substances, humans generate defensive responses approximately 50 times faster than the galactic average. 50 times? And that is just the beginning. Dr. Yilan activated a series of biological scans showing David's internal systems. His liver processes toxins at rates that should be impossible for his body size. His kidneys filter harmful substances so efficiently that waste products are eliminated before they can cause cellular damage. His digestive system can break down molecular structures that would be inert to most species. The laboratory door chimed, and High Counselor Vorth himself entered, his jellyfish-like form pulsing with agitation. Behind him came several other high-ranking assembly members, all looking deeply concerned. Dr. Yilan? Vorth's voice carried dangerous undertones. I require an immediate explanation for yesterday's incident. The human delegation is demanding answers about their colleague's allergic reaction during our most sacred ceremony. Honored Counselor, Dr. Yilan began carefully. The situation is more complex than it initially appeared. The human's reaction revealed biological capabilities that we had not previously understood. Explain. Dr. Yilan activated her holographic displays, showing the complete analysis of David's immune response to Void's whisper. The assembled aliens watched in growing amazement as the data revealed the impossible efficiency of human toxin resistance. The substance that caused the human's mild allergic symptoms, Dr. Yilan explained, choosing her words carefully, was derived from deep-sea organisms that contain natural compounds toxic to most carbon-based life. The human's body not only survived exposure but actually benefited from it. Benefited? Another counselor, a multi-limbed creature from the spiral systems, gestured with several arms simultaneously. How does one benefit from toxic exposure? Human evolution occurred in an environment of constant biological warfare, Dr. Yilan replied. Their immune systems developed to convert potential threats into useful resources. They do not simply resist poison. They metabolize it and use it to enhance their own biological functions. High Counselor Vorth's form had stopped pulsing, a sign of deep contemplation. Are you suggesting that humans are naturally immune to biological weapons? Not immune exactly, but remarkably resistant. Their tolerance levels for substances we consider lethal are extraordinary. Dr. Yilan brought up comparison charts showing toxin resistance across different species. A dose of concentrated heavy metals that would kill most galactic species would cause humans minor digestive discomfort. Radiation levels that would be instantly fatal to us. They can survive for extended periods. This explains some puzzling reports we have received, another counselor observed. Human cargo haulers have been operating in sectors we consider too dangerous for biological life. We assumed they were using advanced protective equipment. They are the protective equipment, Dr. Yilan confirmed. Their bodies are naturally adapted to environments we consider uninhabitable. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans could survive in conditions that killed other species, it meant that vast regions of the galaxy previously considered inaccessible might be opened to exploration and development. Entire systems written off as too hazardous for life could become viable with human assistance. There is more, Dr. Yilan continued, bringing up David's complete biological scan. Analysis of his muscle density, bone structure, and cardiovascular efficiency suggests that his homeworld's gravity is significantly higher than galactic standard. He has been operating at reduced physical capacity since arriving here. Reduced capacity? The human is approximately 40% stronger and faster on this station than he would be on his homeworld. His reaction times and physical endurance are enhanced by our lower gravity environment. Commander Voss finally understood why Dr. Yilan had been so shaken by the previous day's events. You attempted to eliminate someone whose species might be the most biologically resilient in the known galaxy. It appears so. Dr. Yilan deactivated her displays, looking directly at High Counselor Vorth. Honored Counselor, I believe we have seriously underestimated humanity's potential value to the Assembly. They are not primitive beings seeking protection. They are survivors from a world so dangerous it forged them into something unprecedented in galactic civilization. High Counselor. Vorth's bioluminescent patterns shifted to colors that indicated careful consideration of new information. Around him, other council members exchanged glances that suggested similar reassessments of their initial assumptions about humanity. Dr. Yilan, Vorth said finally, I want a complete biological assessment of both humans currently on the station. Full medical scans, toxin resistance testing, environmental adaptation analysis, everything. Of course, honored counselor. And I want recommendations for how this information should influence humanity's membership application. Dr. Yilan nodded. already mentally preparing the extensive testing protocols that would be required. What had begun as an assassination attempt had become the most important xenobiological discovery in galactic history. David Chen's stuffy nose was about to rewrite everything the galaxy thought it knew about the limits of biological adaptation. David Chen had never been asked so many questions about his bodily functions in his entire life. For the past week, he had been poked, prodded, scanned, and tested by what seemed like every scientist on Meridian Station. The medical bay had become his second home as Dr. Yilan and her team conducted the most comprehensive biological analysis in galactic history. Please describe your reaction to consuming spicy foods, Dr. Yilan requested, making notes on her ever-present crystalline device. Her attitude toward David had completely transformed since the closing ceremony. Where once she had viewed him with barely concealed disdain, she now watched him with fascination bordering on reverence. I like spicy food, David replied, sitting on an examination table that adjusted itself to his physiology. The hotter the better, usually. My friends back home think I'm crazy for putting hot sauce on everything. And you experience no adverse effects from capsaicin consumption? Just the heat. Makes me sweat a little, but that's part of the fun. David watched Dr. Yilan's scaled features register amazement. Why is that weird?
Capsaicin is a neurotoxin designed by plants to prevent consumption by mammals, Dr. Yilan explained.
Most galactic species would experience severe neurological distress from even minimal exposure. You consume it recreationally, David shrugged. We humans eat a lot of weird stuff, I guess. Back home, we joke that if it doesn't try to kill you first, it's probably not worth eating. Dr. Yilan's notes grew more frantic. Over the past week, her understanding of human biology had been turned upside down repeatedly. David's casual mentions of his diet had revealed that humans regularly consume substances that would be classified as controlled toxins on most civilized worlds. Tell me about coffee, she requested, pulling up molecular diagrams of caffeine. Love the stuff. Can't function without my morning cup or my afternoon cup. Sometimes I have a third cup in the evening if I'm working late. David noticed Dr. Yilan's expression of horror. Is that bad? Caffeine is a pesticide that plants produce to kill insects. A single human serving contains enough caffeine to be lethal to most small species and seriously harmful to larger ones. Huh. Well, it definitely keeps me awake. The examination room door opened, and High Counselor Vorth entered along with several other assembly leaders. Over the past week, David had gotten used to important aliens wanting to meet him, though he still felt uncomfortable being the center of so much attention. Mr. Chen, Vorth greeted him formally. I hope you are recovering well from your allergic reaction during the ceremony. Oh, that was nothing, David replied. Happens all the time when I eat shellfish. Usually much worse, actually. That wine barely bothered me. The assembled aliens exchanged meaningful glances. What David considered a mild reaction had been the result of consuming enough biotoxin to kill a small army of most galactic species. Dr. Yilan, Vorth addressed the reptilian scientist. Please share your preliminary findings with Mr. Chen. Dr. Yilan activated a holographic display showing David's biological scans alongside comparison data from other species. Mr. Chen, your body's ability to process toxins is unprecedented in galactic biology. You are essentially immune to most substances we consider dangerous. That's cool, I guess. David studied the swirling biological diagrams without really understanding them. Is that why everyone's been so interested in my blood lately? Your blood contains antibodies and cellular structures that we have never encountered before, Dr. Yilan continued. Your immune system can identify, neutralize, and metabolize foreign substances faster than our medical equipment can detect them. Does that mean I'm sick? Quite the opposite. It means you are possibly the healthiest individual we have ever studied. Dr. Yilan highlighted specific portions of the scans. Your bone density is 40% higher than galactic average for your size. Your muscle fiber efficiency is unprecedented. Your cardiovascular system could operate effectively in atmospheric conditions that would be instantly fatal to most life forms. David was beginning to realize that these tests had revealed something significant, though he was not sure what. So what does all this mean? High Counselor Vorth stepped forward, his bioluminescent patterns showing formal colors of respect. Mr. Chen, it means that humanity's application for Trade Assembly membership has been not just approved, but fast-tracked to full partnership status. Partnership? David looked confused. I thought we were just trying to get basic trading rights. The galaxy has regions that we have never been able to explore because they are too dangerous for conventional life, Vorth explained. Radiation levels that cook standard biology. Atmospheric toxins that kill most species on contact. Gravitational fields so intense that normal physiology cannot function. And you think humans can survive in those places? We think humans may be the only species that can survive in those places, Dr. Yilan confirmed. Your homeworld appears to have been so hostile that it forged your species into biological survivors beyond anything we previously thought possible. David thought about Earth with its storms, volcanoes, earthquakes, deadly animals, poisonous plants, radiation, disease, and countless other hazards that humans dealt with as part of daily life. I mean, Earth can be pretty rough sometimes. But we manage, Mr. Chen, another counselor spoke up, a crystalline being whose voice chimed like wind chimes. Your species managing on a Class 12 deathworld is like saying a fish manages to swim. You are evolutionary masterpieces of adaptation and survival. The door chimed again and Ambassador Knox entered, looking slightly overwhelmed but pleased. David, I've just finished signing the most comprehensive trade agreement in human history. Earth isn't just joining the trade assembly. We're being offered full exploration partnerships, scientific collaboration treaties, and resource development contracts that will transform our entire civilization. Because I'm allergic to shellfish? David asked, still struggling to understand how his sneezing fit had led to all this. Because your allergy proved that humans can survive exposure to substances that would exterminate most galactic life, Knox explained. The Assembly wants human crews for deep space exploration, hazardous environment research, and colonization of worlds that have been considered uninhabitable. Dr. Yilan approached David with something approaching reverence. Mr. Chen, would you be willing to participate in ongoing biological research? Your participation could lead to medical breakthroughs that benefit species across the galaxy. Sure, I guess, as long as it doesn't interfere with my cargo runs. David paused, though I'm guessing my cargo runs are about to get a lot more interesting. Extremely interesting, Knox confirmed. You've just become humanity's most valuable export, David. Not you personally, but what you represent. Human biological resilience is apparently the rarest and most precious resource in the galaxy. High Counselor Vorth's patterns shifted to colors indicating deep satisfaction. The Assembly is prepared to offer humanity exclusive contracts for exploration of the Forbidden Zones, first rights to colonization of Class 10 and higher death worlds, and partnerships in the development of toxin-resistant medical treatments. In return for what? David asked, his practical cargo hauler instincts kicking in. In return for sharing your remarkable biology with galactic science, and for being willing to go places that would kill anyone else. Vorth paused. Also, we would very much appreciate it if you could recommend wines that humans consider safely drinkable. Our current selections appear to be inadequate for diplomatic functions involving your species. David laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the examination. Room filled with aliens who had spent the past week learning to view humanity as biological marvels rather than primitive newcomers. I can definitely help with that, he said. Just avoid anything with shellfish. Trust me on that one. As the meeting concluded and various officials began discussing implementation details for humanity's new role in galactic civilization, David reflected on how his simple cargo hauling mission had accidentally revealed that humans were apparently the galaxy's ultimate survivors. He made a mental note to call home and warn his family that their quiet little species was about to become very famous. He also decided that when he got back to Earth, he was definitely going to appreciate his morning coffee a lot more, knowing that his daily caffeine habit would be considered an act of biological daredevilry by most of the galaxy. Sometimes, David thought, it paid to be from a world that was constantly trying to kill you. It made you ready for just about anything the universe could throw at you. Even diplomatic dinners with aliens who accidentally tried to poison you with their finest wine.